We're going to explore something that's a little more sedate, the world of old toys. Ansley Watson is at the Marquette Regional History Museum telling about their new exhibit there. Good morning, Ansley.
Good morning, Vicki. That's right. The exhibit is called Toys in Yooperland, and it'll be on display all the way through the middle of April. Now, we'll get to explore some toys from the Victorian era all the way through the 20th century. Some of these toys you might recognize, and some of them you may have never seen ever before. And as I look around, I'm like, oh, I've never seen that. Really, really neat stuff. And promise you, there'll probably be a little bit more play than work this morning. Stay with us. Reporting live in Marquette, Ansley Watson, TV6 News.
I'm just curious, Ansley, how that makes it any different than any other day for you. You always have a good time. All right, we'll get caught up with you a little bit later on as we start up the day. You know, the weather hasn't turned. Welcome back. It's 10 after the hour this morning. We're heading back in time, exploring the world of old toys. The Marquette Regional History Museum has an exhibit they're calling Toys in Yooperland. So Ansley Watson is there this morning to tell us more about it. Good morning, Ansley.
Good morning, Vicki. These toys are absolutely incredible. Joining me this morning is curator of the museum, Joe Whitler. Good morning. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
So Toys in Yooperland, we were talking about there's toys from the Victorian era all the way through the 20th century. When we think of the Victorian era, what type of toys are we thinking here?
Well, there were a lot of cast iron toys that were made. You know, the Victorians really got into mass marketing and all of the advertising. You could order things out of a catalog a lot of times, and they had these wonderful mechanical banks. So you'd put your penny or whatever in the bird's mouth, and you'd press the lever and it'd drop it in. And these kind of curiosity things, and the trucks and the trains made out of cast iron. And they started getting into a lot of game boards. The games weren't real sophisticated, but they started to be really interesting visually. And that brought us to the Nellie Bly Story.
Yes.
So when we took this out and started reading, reading about Nellie Bly, she was an actual reporter, and she pitched this story to her editor that she wanted to travel around the world and beat the record of Phineas Ferb that was set by Jules Verne's fictional story, the 80 Days Around the World. So they, of course, said, you know, a woman can't do that, and, you know, it's not going to be safe. You're going to have all these bags and, you know, have someone travel with you. And she said, oh, no, I can do this, you know. I think she actually said she would go work for someone else and do it if they didn't send her, because they liked the idea. They were just going to send a man to do it.
And she took just one little handbag with her, right?
Small handbag, and you know, she went to a dressmaker and had her practical outfit made in like less than 24 hours. And she just said, you know, I just of the opinion you just ask people to do things and don't say they can't, you know. And that person was fine with it and made this whole outfit for her, and she was off the next day. So she was quite the woman. She was an investigative reporter and did a lot of really ground-setting work. So it's really fun to see that, and to imagine that at the time, you know, we're used to our cell phones and our TV and all the way we get our news. Well, they were reading about this in the newspaper and it came out in a book, but then when she got back, it came out as a game.
How neat.
So, you know, it was just a way of people thinking about that and exploring that in a kind of fun way. And that's not that really different from today, you know. News is partly entertainment as well. So,
we were talking earlier about how some of these toys are so detailed. Like nowadays, toys are pretty simple, but if we look around, there's just so many little details to these toys.
Yes. Well, in the Victorian era, the dolls were little fashion icons, and so you dress them up. It was all about the clothing and the styles. So different styles came out, and they had different hairstyles. I mean, we tend to think of things more static, but there were actually changes, and they were, you know, promoting different styles through the dolls. And the trucks and trains, a lot of them were replicas of actual trucks, and, you know, in the 20s and 30s, they were making these really detailed toys. So.
Well, we'll get to show more of that in a little bit.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Joe. Reporting live in Marquette, Ansley Watson, TV6 News.
All right, thanks, Ansley. It looks like a great display, and as we're heading out, we get enough snow, folks are going to be looking.
Welcome back. Well, the Marquette Regional History Museum has a special exhibit called Toys in Yooperland. Ansley Watson is there this morning, giving us a glimpse into the world of old toys. So, Ansley, that means put the toys down. You have work to do.
I know, Sam. It's been so fun checking out all these old toys. Some of them I do remember playing in like my grandma's basement. It's like, wow, I didn't realize these toys were so old. Joining me this morning is curator Joe Whitler. Good morning. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
We've just had to have a good time checking out all these toys, haven't we?
Yes, we have.
We're standing next to a old puppet theater right here with some puppets behind us. Talk to me a little bit about this.
Well, this is like from the 20s. It actually came from a family here in Marquette. It was Marion Sondereggers. She's from the Longyear family. And they're just wonderful puppets. They're carved wood, and, you know, there's like a little devil in there. And
I know, I was looking at some of them, are kind of scary looking.
Stories. Yeah, well, you know, things were not all neat and tidy all the time for toys. So it allowed you to play out some of your fears. And
that's true. Yeah. We were talking about how some of these are handmade. You know, these are wood carved, and right next to it are like handmade paper dolls.
Yes, so the Victorians made some beautiful lithographed dolls. You could buy them as sets, or they would be printed in either like a magazine, and you could cut them out, or sometimes they came free in some product, much like we might have today. And so you'd keep buying that food item or whatever and get a set of dolls. But then we had these wonderful ones about the 20s or 30s, and the woman had a note in with them when she had framed them from when she was after, you know, much later. I'm sure she had them up in her home when she was an adult, and she said, I couldn't find these. We couldn't find any to buy, and so I cut them out and made them.
She literally made them.
And they're all hand colored. So I just think that's really delightful and really speaks a lot about her that she saved them, and that was a really important memory for her childhood. So it's really nice when people will save things, and you know, you can think back about those times. I have some quotes up about playing, and one of them said something like, you know, we spend our childhood playing with toys, and then we become parents and we relive our childhood. And that's what we spend our time doing. So it is nice to be able to jog those memories when you come, whether you're a new parent or a grandparent, or you're not a parent yet and you kind of forgot those toys even from 10, 20 years ago. So there's just a lot of different things, and some old, some not so old, and some things haven't changed that much in 20, 30 years, and some things have.
Now, right in front of us are some Lincoln logs, and not even that, but there's other things. This construction set, we're saying how this wasn't even mainly meant for the younger kids. It was actually kind of meant for adults even.
I think some of them were. There were the miniature timbers, and that was for train modelers, and so you could build these little buildings, and they're very detailed. So it was not something you would give a small child, but the one piece on the top, they were made out of stone, and that came out of Germany in the late Victorian era. And you know, so they had this idea of educational construction toys that they were starting, you know, back in that time frame. So they're just really wonderful stone. And there are some people who remember playing with those, you know, up into the early part of the 20th century, surely the stone ones, and then there's some that are brick. And of course, a lot of us remember the Lincoln logs.
Yes, of course. Well, we've just been having a good time here. Thanks for showing us around. It's been great. So come check it out for yourself. This exhibit is actually going on till middle of April. So reporting live in Marquette, Ansley Watson, and we'll be back with more of your TV6 Morning News after the break.